Erica, I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a very black episode.
Yes, that's okay though. I kind of a little bit know the people we're going to talk about, but definitely not as well as you. And I'm excited for you to educate me on it.
Yeah. I figured when I was thinking about talking about Issa and Amanda, I was like, I don't know if Erica knows anything about these two.
I know like a little bit about Amanda because she was on Nickelodeon.
That is true. What a random thing for you to know.
I was a big Nickelodeon kid, like a big Nickelodeon kid.
I love that is the thing you know about Amanda, and that you named Amanda before Issa, because Issa is arguably way more famous. So I love
Yeah, she's
that.
an actress, right?
Issa, yes,
Yeah.
actress, producer, writer, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it's going to be quite a black episode, and I just felt like after watching, or not watching because I did not watch, but after knowing that Trump got sworn in, after seeing his, right hand man give that quote unquote Roman salute, which is, I've noticed what people are calling it, which is wild.
Well, that's not what I'm calling it.
That's not what I'm calling it either. So after all of that, I was like, you know what? We're going to be real black on today's
Yeah,
podcast.
I like it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm always down. Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to Two Queens, Two Crowns. I'm your host, KJ Miller, founder, lecturer, and content creator.
And I'm Erica Manganelli, pop culture humorist and content creator.
And today on the show, we are talking about Issa Rae and Amanda Seales. I felt like it would be a good time, particularly to talk about Issa, because she just produced her first major film, One of Them Days, which admittedly I have not seen. Have you seen it or heard of it?
No.
Okay, it's got Keke Palmer and SZA. And it's like a buddy comedy. And I didn't realize this. It's supposed to kind of be an homage to the movie Friday. Had you ever seen the movie Friday?
Yes.
Okay. So it's sort of supposed to kind of be an homage to that film, which of course was Ice Cube and Chris Tucker, but they're kind of reimagining it. It's with two women leads, and it just chronicles a single day of them, getting into shenanigans, trying to get enough money to pay their rent. Anyway,
the movie, that sounds so funny.
Yeah, the movie recently released. I love all three of them. Like, I love Issa Rae, I love Keke Palmer, and I love SZA. So I thought, yeah, let's talk about Issa and get into a little bit of this drama with Amanda Seales, who you know from Nickelodeon, but
yes.
Did you know anything? Had you ever heard even through the grapevine about their, like, quote unquote feud?
No, I've never heard about their feud. I literally know her from Nickelodeon, and like I remember her face from that, but I know that she's obviously been in things after that, but yeah, I don't know anything else.
Okay, well then buckle up. You're in for quite a ride. As some of you know, when I am not yapping about pop culture or running my company, Minted Cosmetics, I am teaching. I've been a lecturer at Yale School of Management for several years, and I'm excited to announce that I recently relaunched my on-demand course, Startup Starter Kit. This is a course that helps you if you've got an idea, something you've been tinkering on or something you've been thinking about for a long time, but you're like, I don't know how to get it started. I don't know how to get it off the ground. This is the course that's going to help you do just that. So to learn more and enroll, head over to kjmiller.co. And with that, let's get back to the show. All right, so let's jump into Issa Rae and Amanda Seales. I know you said you're not that familiar with Issa, so I assume that means you didn't watch like her show Insecure on HBO, for example.
No, I don't have HBO, so I've never seen it.
Okay. All right. So that's how she really broke into mainstream fame. But the reason she even got that show is because she had done a web series called The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl. And I remember that show came out in 2011. And I remember it being like a big hit in the Black community. I really don't think it made it far outside of the Black community, but within the Black community, it was huge, to the point where I even watched it. I've never watched a web series. Like, I'm not a YouTube web series kind of girl.
Is that where it was? YouTube?
Yeah, it was on YouTube. And it was just so fresh, like, because the whole premise of both that show and eventually Insecure, which is the show that got picked up on HBO, is that she is kind of an awkward Black girl. And I remember listening to her in interviews at the time talking about how so many of the Black women who are portrayed on TV are like, Olivia Pope, right? Super powerful. Or, Dr. Bailey on Grey's Anatomy. Again, very powerful, very assertive, very confident. Or Annalise Keating on, How to Get Away with Murder. Like always this like powerful, confident, like knows what she's doing, takes no nonsense kind of woman. And Issa was like, but that's not me. Like I am insecure, I'm awkward, I'm a little bit introverted, like I don't always know what I'm doing, I'm figuring shit out as I go. And where's that story, right? So that's how we all sort of get introduced to Issa. But backing up a bit, just to give you a little bit of her background. So she was born in 1985. Her full name is Jo Issa Rae Diop. And her father is Senegalese. Her mother is African American. And she grew up, pretty firmly middle class. Like her dad was a doctor. Her mom was a teacher. And so they grew up middle class, started in LA, then moved to Senegal for a bit, which is why Issa is fluent in French, then moved to Potomac, which is like a fairly, well-known DC suburb in Maryland, and then eventually moved back to LA. And when I was reading about her upbringing, the things that really stood out for me are, one, she was pretty firmly middle class, but two, there seemed to be a real intentional drive on particularly her mother's part to make sure that she was kind of ensconced in Black culture. So when she originally was living in Potomac, she went to a predominantly white school and grew up like she was on the swim team. She grew up going to like Passover dinners with her Jewish besties. So all of these things that, are not
doing all the white stuff,
which is literally how she phrased it. Like she grew up doing all the white stuff and went to a predominantly white school. Then when she moved back to LA, her mom was like, nah, we got to get you.
We got to remind you about our culture now.
Exactly. Like, we got to get you back with the Blacks. So she put her in like a predominantly Black school, in like a magnet predominantly Black school in LA. And Issa talks about like how it was really, she almost like went into kind of a Black bubble because she was always doing Black stuff with Black people at her Black school. And then even when she went to Stanford, because she ended up getting into Stanford, she majored in African and African American studies and pretty much was always in the Black groups doing Black things. And so she just talked about how Black culture really ended up becoming super important to her, to the point where she was studying it. And then at Stanford, when she started like really diving into filmmaking and creating and producing shows, like, or not shows, but like theatrical shows, again, it was from the lens of Black culture, Black art. And that just was really important to her, and sounds like something that was pushed kind of on her, particularly by her mom.
So were her parents in film or anything like that?
No, it just was something she was super into. Yeah, neither of them were in film at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I've heard her talk in interviews about all of the shows that she was super in love with, and it was a good mix. It wasn't just like only Family Matters and, Fresh Prince. Like she loved Saved by the Bell. She loved Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like she was just very much into
My
TV
Brother and
film.
I. Isn't that what that show was called?
Yes, my Brother and Me. That's the one Amanda Seales was in. Mm-hmm. I'm sure she watched that one too. She
must have been into that one.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure, because I remember that one. And do you want to know a fun fact about that show?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember there was a character on that show who had a tagline? What was his tagline? Don't hold your breath.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay. That guy, the actor for that show, ended up coming to Harvard. I met him at Harvard. He became one of our closest friends. Like we still talk to him to this day. His name is Stefan.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun. I love that so much.
Yeah. I remember when we met him and that he told us that, and it just like immediately in my brain, I saw that image of him being like, don't hold your breath. Like it's so.
Oh my God. I loved that tagline.
You had an iconic tagline when you were like 9.
No, literally. Did you watch a lot of Nickelodeon as a kid?
I did. Yeah. Because we didn't have Disney. So we were a Nickelodeon family. Yeah.
Do you remember the commercials that were like, it's unbelievable?
Yes.
I went to high school with the Unbelievable guy.
Oh my God.
And
look
every
at us.
single solitary time I would see him, I'd be like, it's unbelievable. Poor kid. Oh my god. Nickelodeon's burned into our brain. I love Nickelodeon.
It literally is burned into our brain. And Stefan, he used to say how like people would come up to him and say, "Don't hold your breath."
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Can you imagine?
I hate that for him, but like that would be me. I would be doing that to him.
Totally. That is so funny. Okay, so so she grew up having a very strong appreciation for Black culture. It permeated through to when she started getting involved in filmmaking and the arts and theater while she was at Stanford. And you can see it now in pretty much everything that Issa does. Like I would say all of her art, everything she does is basically like a love letter to the Black community and to Black culture. And you can see that literally from like a really early age with her.
I love that.
So then moving on to Amanda Seales, and what was interesting in reading about Amanda Seales was finding out how much similarity there was in their upbringing, because Amanda also, now she was born in 1981, so she's a few years older than Issa, but she was also born in LA to one immigrant parent, one African American parent. So her dad is African American, her mom is Caribbean from Grenada. They left LA when she was little, moved to Orlando for a while, but eventually she came back to LA, kind of similar to Issa. But Amanda, as you have noted, started acting when she was really young. So her first role was in a movie called Cop and a Half when she was 11 years old. Did you ever see that? Never even heard of it.
I think I do know that movie.
Okay, yeah. She had a role in that movie. And then, as you mentioned, she was on My Brother and Me when she was 12. Her character's name was Dionne Wilburn.
Iconic
show. And so she also, when she went to college, majored in African American studies at SUNY Purchase.
Okay.
So it's funny because to me, if I think about both of them, they're both from LA. They both have one African American parent, one immigrant parent. They both majored in African American studies in college. And they both, I didn't mention this about Issa, but they both moved to New York for a period of time to like pursue the arts. And then eventually went back to LA, and LA is where they found their like breakout success. Like so they basically both returned home.
You would assume this is a recipe for besties.
You would think, right?
Yeah, you would. But I know that's not how it's going to go.
No. In fact, is not how it ends up going. But like, it is so interesting because this has happened to me a couple times on this show where, you know, we'll go to talk about two women. And once I start reading about them, I'm like, wow, they are so similar in ways that I did not realize. But yes.
I think sometimes when you are so similar, though, it could leave for like a competition, like a, you know, where you could be fighting. So I get it. I could get it. I could see both sides.
Yeah, totally. Well, and what really emerges to me, and we'll get into it, is that they have just had, I would say, quite different approaches to the industry. And they also, you know, had very different starts within the industry. Like Amanda, as we said, she started when she was 11 years old as an actor. And from there, you really see her really focusing more on the performance aspects of being in the industry, right? She's acting, she's singing for a time. She took over on tour in the group Flowetry. Do you know the group Flowetry?
No, I never heard of that.
Okay. It's very Black. Like I told you, this is a very Black episode.
Okay.
Flowetry is a very Black musical group, and it's a duo. And at one point, Amanda literally took over singing for one of the women who like left the group on tour. So, but she, you know, but the point is, her whole thing has been mostly performance based, whether it's been on stage as an actor, whether it's been singing. She was doing poetry for a while, like poetry performances. She's, you know, launched a podcast, a radio show, but everything kind of like on stage in front of the mic, where Issa starts pretty much as a behind the scenes because she's writing, she's creating, she's getting into filmmaking, like studying filmmaking. So Issa's perspective, while she has obviously starred in things as well, her perspective has always been like the creation of art.
Her
not
insecurity
just
pushed her to the background.
Look at you. You better put it together. Yes.
I'm putting all the pieces together.
Yes.
Getting it.
Exactly. So I think that's one, you know, way in which their approach to the industry really has differed. And then I would say from like basically once they both like made it in to the industry, you see a lot of the differences emerging in terms of how they're approaching it. And I would say Issa's approach has been just much more like working within the system. You know, she's like, okay, let me figure out how things are done. Oh, this is how I get a Hollywood deal. This is how I get a deal with HBO. Let me do that. Now that I've done that, now let me get a deal with Warner. Okay, let me sit down with these executives. Right? So she's very much the whole time still focused on like Black people, Black culture, Black art, but like kind of like within the system sort of approach.
Yeah.
Where Amanda, her approach has been more, let me call out the system. Like,
Okay.
let me make it very clear. This structure is racist. This system is racist. These people are trying to hold us down. And I would say she's more of a tear the system down sort of girl.
I love that vibe.
To make the art. And Issa's more of the let me work within the system sort of girl.
Okay. That's where they're going to clash, isn't it? I feel it.
I do think that ends up being a little bit, I'm guessing, part of the foundation of where things go wrong for them. So, but first,
how do they meet?
Yeah. Okay. So how they meet? They meet because of Issa Rae's show Insecure on HBO, or at least that's where they really come together. It's possible they like met before then,
right?
But that's where they come together. So Issa casts Amanda on the show in the role of Tiffany. And basically, for anyone who hasn't seen the show, it follows Issa is the star. She is, insecure, but she's got 3 really close girlfriends, Black girlfriends. And so Amanda plays one of them. She plays Tiffany. And the show basically follows Issa as she's just kind of figuring shit out. She's in a relationship in the beginning of the show that has kind of like dug its way into the ground. It's not really working for her. She's in kind of a no-end job or dead-end job. She's in her mid-20s, I think, when the show starts, like mid-20s, late 20s, just trying to figure shit out. And her life is kind of a mess, basically. So that's the premise of the show. Amanda Seales gets cast, and the show is really successful. And I think no matter how Amanda feels about Issa Rae, which we'll talk about more, it's undeniable that this show really was a rocket for both of them. So I was looking at some of the things that happened over the course of the five-year run, or the 5-season run for both of them. So for Issa, while this show is going on, she launches a talent management agency called Color Creative.
Okay.
She launches a production company called Hooray Media. With that production company, she signs a $40 million deal with Warner Media, and this is for TV, film, and digital products. Okay. And it produces a Black Lady sketch show on HBO, a reality show called Sweet Life, and another TV show called Rap Shit. Okay. She launches a music label called Radio, and she starts investing in real estate. So she opens a coffee shop called Hilltop, and launches a hair care brand called Sienna Naturals, right?
Okay, all of this. She did a lot of things. How long was this going on?
Literally, and that's just up until 2021, which is the last season comes out in 2021. Okay. So, and it launched in 2016.
So a pretty short period of time.
Yeah. And all of this is popping off: a talent management agency, production company, radio.
She spread thin.
Yes. Okay. So, but she's able to do all of this really on the back of Insecure's success, because it really is a hit show. Okay. And it's a hit show primarily within the Black community, but I do think it managed to like get out of the Black community. I think it did, because I've
definitely heard of it. I just haven't watched it.
Yeah. And then Amanda Seales, at the same time, in that same period, she launches her podcast called Small Doses, which is still out and thriving today. Okay. She released a stand-up comedy special on HBO called I Be Knowin'. That was in 2019. She published a book also called Small Doses. She joined do you remember the daytime talk show, The Real? Do you remember that show? It had one of the Maori sisters on it.
Yes, I totally. Is it still a thing? It's not?
No, it had several seasons, though. I think it made it to like 8 or 9 seasons before it went off air.
Yeah, I used to watch that occasionally.
Yeah, she became a co-host of that show.
That's where I've seen her from.
Okay.
Yes. Because I remember seeing her face places.
Yes. So she was a co-host on that show, and launched the Amanda Seales radio show on iHeartRadio. So this time period was very impactful for both of them.
Everyone's booked and busy.
Booked and busy.
Yeah.
Which you love to see. You love to see it. So then we get to the feud, quote unquote feud.
Okay. It's like a well-known feud, or is it like a secret feud?
No, it's well known. If you follow either of these women, you've heard about this feud. Okay, so
I'm like nervous. Okay.
So this is what goes down. In 2019, Issa Rae's publicist hosted an Emmys after party that Amanda Seales was not invited to.
Ooh.
However, Amanda Seales shows up to the party. And according to her, she really didn't know that she wasn't invited because she just sort of assumed, because it was really kind of being talked about as if it were just like the Black Emmys after party. So, she's thinking like, and she had gone to it the year before.
Okay. She's so like, that's where I'm going tonight.
Right. She's like, oh, I'm Black. I'm at the Emmys. I'm going to go to the Black Emmys after party.
Right.
Okay. So she gets there.
Oh no, I'm so nervous now. Showing up somewhere you're not invited is like the worst vibe on both sides.
I know. She gets there, and at first at the door, they're like, nah, you're not on the list. You can't come in.
Okay.
But she eventually, someone who's in the party is like, nah, I'm going to come get you. Someone lets her in. And once the publicist finds out she's in there, the publicist has her kicked out.
What year was this?
This is 2019.
Okay, because I'm wondering, are we taking an Instagram live? Like, what's happening?
We all hear about this the next day because, word travels fast.
Right.
And at the time, and we're going to hear Amanda talk about it in her own words, but at the time, it's all hearsay. All the blogs are like, oh, Amanda Seales got kicked out of this party. Issa didn't do anything about it. And so then
and it's Issa's party, right?
And well, it's not Issa's party. It's Issa's publicist party.
Okay.
As far as I know, Issa isn't even at the party.
Oh, okay.
Right.
This is getting confusing.
Yes. Okay. So we all sort of, we see it hit the blogs. Everyone's like, what's going on? But neither Amanda or Issa really say anything about it. So we're all sort of speculating, but then we get to the next season of Insecure, and Amanda's character has noticeably way less time on screen, right?
Oh no.
So kind of the rumors start back up again because we're like, well, what?
Wow. Okay, so she was like a main character before, now she's not.
Yes, it's more like, her character, my recollection of that season is her character has a baby and is like going through postpartum depression, so she never wants to be around anybody. So therefore, she's never around.
Oh, wow. That's a really interesting way to work her out of it, too, by the way. It's like exploiting postpartum depression. Like, holy shit.
But it does make sense because if you've been through postpartum, you can understand why she's sort of like, she's 100%. Not coming to kick it with anybody, but yes. So
and
then, of course,
busy.
The rumors kind of like pick back up again because everyone's like, oh no, Issa must have really been mad at her. They must have really had a falling out. So then the rumors become that like, Amanda is just really difficult on set and like none of the cast really likes her. But again, no one's really confirming anything. So these are just, it's in the blogs. It's all rumors. No one's confirming anything. But now we fast forward to April of last year. By the way, by this point, the show's over. Okay. Right. Show's over. It's, it's made it through its 5 seasons.
Spill the tea now.
And Amanda Seales goes on to the Club Shay Shay podcast.
Oh, I love Club Shay Shay.
and she spills all the tea. So we are going to listen, and it takes her a while. So we're going to listen to it.
How does that man get everything out of these people? By the way,
I don't know. Really and truly, we need to study what's going on over there at Club Shay Shay.
For real. They trust him.
They trust him. So yes, I'm going to we're going to listen to this clip.
So, and I said to Issa, like, I don't know what's going on with your publicist, but like, she got something wrong. She got a problem with me. And she was like, that's between y'all.
Okay.
I said, well, it's not really between y'all because I don't have a problem with her.
Right.
But she seems to have a problem with me. And she was like, that's none of my business.
Okay.
Okay. So now next year is 2019. And it was interesting because in 2018, it was packed like a dick in front of that place. In 2019, there was like nobody there. But I was at the HBO party and every Black person I saw, I would tell them, make sure you go to the Black Emmys party because I am about creating community and I want us to be together.
Right.
So I pull up with my homegirl, Kathia, and Kendrick Sampson, who's on Insecure. You know, the show where I don't have any friends?
Yeah.
So I pull up with Kendrick Sampson. So we get to the door and I learned later that she just is white passing, but this is a Mexican girl, but like she looked like a white girl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So she at the door for the
Emmys.
For what kind of party?
Emmys Black Party.
There you go. So she tells us, you can go in, you can go in, you can't go in. Now I think she's talking to my friend because my friend is a realtor.
Right.
And she says, no, you can't go in. And I said, well, why can't I go in? She says, you're just on the list to not be able to go in. Now, I had also been invited to this party directly by Jesse Williams.
Right.
So Jesse Williams had texted me and said, please come to the Black Emmys party.
Right.
Okay. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna come to the Black Emmys party. Yeah. Again, I'm not about to stand out here.
Right.
So I start to walk away again. And now Elijah Kelly comes out. He's like, hey, where you going? I said, they not trying to let me in this party that I was invited to.
Right.
By Jesse Williams.
Did you attempt to call Jesse?
Did I attempt to call Jesse? I texted him.
Okay.
But he's in a party.
Right.
You know, so I texted him. So then Elijah is like, well, I'm one of the planners of the party. So they can't stop they can't stop me from bringing you in.
Right.
So he starts to bring me in and homegirl grabs my arm. But I remember when I told you I've been a New Yorker since I was 12?
Uh-oh.
I had to shake that off.
Yeah. Loose me.
Yeah. Crazy. So we go in the party and I go and sit down. No, sorry. I go in the party. I go by the bar.
Mm-hmm.
My homegirl goes to the bathroom. I'm standing by the bar and a security guard approaches me.
Uh-oh.
A security guard your size approaches me and says, hey, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And I said, well, why do I need to leave? And he said, because you're being asked to leave. I said, well, who's asking me to leave? He said, well, let me go find out. So he then leaves again and comes back with 3 other men. And one of the men now is a brother and he's walking towards me cursing. So he's literally walking towards me saying, you need to get the out of here. You need to leave. And I'm like, mind you, I'm dressed down, honey. Okay. And he's like, you need to leave. Now, Kathia was in the bathroom. She's now just come up and I'm looking around and I can see people seeing the ruckus. Right. So I'm like, why do I have to leave? Because we said so. So there's like violent energy and language coming towards me. Right. I ain't no sucker. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also not stupid. I can't fight for men. Right. So, like, I mean,
right.
So the first one who was kind, he had come up right here, but then the other 3 were right here. So I have to realize I've lost this fight. Mm-hmm. So I pivot to leave, but I pivot really fast because I'm going to still say my mother piece. So when I pivot and I say, I pivot to go, you. Yes, they thought I was about to do something. So the white guy steps in between me and the brother and chest bumps me and throws me back.
Right.
So now this is an assault because I hadn't raised my hand to do anything to anybody. So luckily I'm nimble in a heel. So but now it's like, you know, now I've been assaulted. So your natural response. So I'm about to go Super Saiyan on these motherfuckers. It's Goku over here. I'm like, Yeah. And I hear in one ear, I hear the security guard saying, please, Amanda, don't do it. And it feels like, please, Miss Celia, don't do it. Don't be like me, Miss Celia. Don't be like Miss Sophia. And then in the other ear, I have my homegirl who's from the Bronx, like, what the f is going on? This is some bullshit. And all I'm hearing is beep, but I look around and I see nobody coming to my aid. All these agents and people that I see around. Now, none of them are Insecure. None of them are the actors from Insecure. But there's people whose faces I still remember. And they will not get a hug in a party either. I just refused somebody a hug the other day for this. And I realized, like, you got to go. Ended up happening 2 days later is that I got a call from Issa. And she called me and said, hey, I heard what happened this weekend. I just want you to know I have nothing to do with it. Would you be willing to talk to Vanessa? So I've never talked about this publicly because it has always been incredibly important to me to protect Issa. Because I know that Issa is doing something within this business that so few people get to do. And it's not something I desire to do. Like, I'm not interested in getting $100 million production deal. Like, that's not a life that I want for myself, but I know that her role is very important. And so I've always protected Issa. However, there's just been enough instances at this point where I should have been protected by Issa and I wasn't. And one of my biggest problems that we have discussed several times in this interview is that I think people are going to show up for me the way I show up for them. And now it's at a point where my protecting of Issa has become turned on to me and something that people are using against me. There's a whole narrative that is completely false that people keep spinning. They keep saying, you know, that I'm this mean girl on this set, that I harmed these people on this set. I just want to point out something very basic. How can I be a mean girl on a set that ain't my set? How? It's your show. You are my boss. I don't even have the capacity to be the mean girl here because you can fire me. So there's no way for me to be a mean girl in this situation. And I know some people that may buck up against like the confirmation bias that they've created, but it simply is the truth.
Ooh, now I know for our listeners know, Erica and I just sat through and listened to a full 20 minutes of that interview. I'm probably not going to play the full 20 minutes on the podcast, but that was a lot. So Erica, what's your reaction?
I've taken a side. First of all, I could listen to her talk all day because she tells a good story.
She's quite a storyteller. I completely agree.
She's a good storyteller. And like, I want to know what the publicist has against her. I need to know. Like, I need to know that side of the story because I'm nosy, right?
And I still don't know.
Yeah, but like, I'd be mad if I were her. That was a shocking story to listen to. I suggest that if you just heard the clip, that maybe you go and watch the whole thing because it was a wild ride.
A wild ride. And I realized that she was speaking. I did misspeak and say that neither she nor Issa had said anything. Looking back through my notes, it's not that they didn't say anything. It's that they didn't say anything about each other. And that's what Amanda alluded to. Like, she was trying to protect Issa. So even when Amanda was coming out and talking about on her Instagram or whatever, like, I got kicked out of the Hollywood party, she never said like Issa kicked me out. She never said like Issa did something wrong. And so we were all sort of speculating like, well, why did this happen? Why did you get kicked out? You must have been, basically people were coming to the conclusion like it must have been you. Because Issa didn't come out either and say anything like, oh, it was a misunderstanding, everything, you know, so.
I think I may have heard that pee on the floor rumor before.
You think so? I didn't remember hearing that one.
As soon as she said that, I was like, oh, I heard that once before. I don't remember if it was about her or somebody else, but I was like, wow.
But definitely I remember hearing, you know, she's really difficult. And the thing is, there were other things happening that sort of started to underscore that quote unquote difficult rumor. Like, she was on that show, The Real. She was only on that show for 6 months before she got asked to leave. When she got asked to leave, she basically said like it was, you know, creative differences. She didn't feel like she could be her full self on that show. But again, there were rumors like it was because she was so difficult. So those were rumors that were out and about. But yeah, listening to that story, you sort of feel like, what the hell?
Yeah. So she does kind of have like what I like to call like the New York attitude. Like, where we just like speak our mind, because I'm from the East Coast, so I understand, like where we just speak our mind and it might not be what people want us to be saying out loud. And I could see that rubbing people the wrong way. And so maybe that's like a little bit of a factor, right? She definitely speaks her mind and she sounds like she's super honest. And people don't always love that.
People don't always love that. That's true. And by the way, Issa still has said very little about this publicly. The only things that she has said publicly, pretty much, because she did an event, like a wine, she has a wine brand, and she was doing an event, and she got asked, is there anyone who you wouldn't work with again? And this happened shortly after Amanda had done that podcast. And she responds basically saying like, well, not someone who talks shit about me on a podcast. So we all understand her to be referring to Amanda. And the other thing I remember Issa saying, it was either in that same interview or in a different one, but the other thing I remember Issa saying about it was like, look, she kind of just doubles down on the idea that it's not her business and is like, I don't know what it has to do with me when I'm not even at the party. I wasn't even at the party, right?
That's such a cop-out, though.
And that's sort of where I land. And I will say, Issa, she in 2018 gave an interview to Fast Company where she talked about like essentially being an entrepreneur now. And her quote was, there are so many aspects you don't think about. You're essentially an entrepreneur. That was the biggest learning curve of, oh shit, I have to basically run a company. And running a company is still something I struggle with now, right? So she said that in 2018. This incident went down in 2019. I think, and I see this happen with CEOs and, startup founders all the time, I think they really do underestimate how much of the job is people management.
For sure.
That, and you can't just be like, oh, not my business. You two are both adults. You deal with it. It's like, no, they're both on your payroll.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to be a mediator.
Sometimes you have to be.
Yeah.
And I get that from her perspective. And I remember I actually made a video about this at the time when all this was happening last year, like after Amanda went on the podcast. And I said something to that effect, like, part of being a CEO, this is part of your job. These are your employees. And a lot of people in my comments were like, well, no, because it wasn't her event. It's not like it was an insecure after party. It wasn't her event. It happened off the clock. Like, it wasn't like it happened, quote unquote, on the clock. It doesn't matter. And they're like, also, her publicist is on her like personal payroll where Amanda's on her show's payroll. And I'm like, at the end of the day, though,
it doesn't matter.
They both think of her as their boss.
Yeah.
Do they not? And so, exactly. I hope that Issa has since then, because this was, 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I hope since then she has grown as a CEO, because I do not think you can take the approach of, oh, it's not my business. Y'all are adults.
Yeah, I don't think you can either. No. It sounds like she doesn't want to be in the mess, right? Like it's too messy for her to handle. She's like, this is too much. I don't want to be in the middle of it.
Right. And I can understand that. And again, I think this gets back to some of their differing approaches to the industry that I was talking about, because I do think Issa works within the existing systems. Like she's partnered with HBO. She's partnered with Warner Media. She, I think at one point partnered with Disney. Like she's worried. She's worried, right? So she doesn't want to be in drama, in the middle of a fight. That's not what she wants her brand to be. Where Amanda speaks out all the time. That's why she got hired at The Real, because she was known as being extremely outspoken, always stating her opinion. She would go on IG Live, and just like spout off her opinion. That is what she's known for. So I think like the reason there's this tension is because like they do just have these differing approaches to Hollywood and fame.
No, definitely. That's 100% what it is. She's worried that if she's in the middle of this public fight, it's going to look bad for her image, and Disney might be like, that's not what Disney does. You out, 100%.
And I think it was really telling that, even after all of this went down, Issa didn't actually write her off of the show, right? Like she
kept her on. Yeah.
She kept her on the show through to the series finale. She did, and I would say, decrease how much she was on the show.
Yeah.
But she didn't write her off, and Amanda didn't back out of the contract either. So at the end of the day, they both worked through it enough to continue on and see it through.
Yeah, letting her go would have caused more drama. She didn't want the scene.
And I wonder though, because I think there was enough people were calling Amanda difficult and erratic and everything else. Like I think Issa probably could have written her off the show and people would have been like, oh, she just must have needed to do that because Amanda's so difficult. Yeah. But she didn't do that.
But I wonder what the contract had said.
That's right? True.
Because I am curious if maybe she couldn't fire her because the contract you need, like maybe she needed like a pretty good reason and didn't have one. Like maybe. Being difficult isn't a good enough reason, right?
That's true. But I thought characters got written out of TV shows.
Right. Like maybe they could just write you out and be like, sorry, that character doesn't exist anymore. It's like firing you without firing you.
Right.
But it would have made way worse bad blood.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't think that's Issa's vibe at all, which is why,
trying to play it safe.
Which is why I think we also did not hear her talk about it until Amanda said everything she said on Club Shay Shay.
And I love listening to these messy stories on Club Shay Shay, but I do also, in the same like realm, think to myself, there are some things that maybe at the time feel like you're calling out and is a good idea, and then later on in life could come back to bite you. And so sometimes you should just zip it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this may possibly be one.
You have to wonder. Yeah. I mean, because here's the thing. Issa Rae is like a Hollywood power player at this point.
Yeah.
She does own a production company that puts out, literally just put out a movie in theaters like this week. She does own a talent management agency. She does own now a coffee shop. And I think she recently opened a restaurant. Like, she's a power player. I feel like she's kind of coming for like female Tyler Perry.
No, 100%.
Like, title, you know?
And as much as I like hate this, you have to think that people that are in that realm might look at this and just be like, and that's why we know she was difficult to work with. Like, look at her calling it out, because people hate when you call stuff out, even if it's like the right thing to do, you know?
They do. Absolutely.
Sucks.
I have never, it's sort of like, you know, that piece of advice they give you when you're doing a corporate interview, like, don't talk shit about your last boss because this boss is going to think you'll do that to them.
100%.
Even if your last boss was like extremely shitty.
Yeah, of course. Your last boss could have like harassed you and you still have to be like, well, I just wanted to be more creative on my own.
Exactly. You still have to sing their praises. You know what? I loved how passionate they were at my old shop. Oh, loved that. And
I really grew there.
I'm ready to spread my, you gotta glaze over it, even if it was shitty.
I learned so much in that experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And I think Issa, for better or for worse, like, she has learned corporate speak.
Yeah.
She has learned like how to get into the rooms where it happens and how to be the one making it happen.
Yeah.
And she's not going to sacrifice all that because of a fight, you know, between two of her employees. But my hope is that she at least has learned, like, okay, but I do actually need to manage the people who report to me, and manage the conflict that arises.
Yeah, I think that she definitely needed to kind of like mediate that situation a little bit, but in the same turn, I'm like, I wonder how that would have even played out, because like, was she going to out her for the mediation too? You know, it's a tough spot to be in.
It's a tough spot to be in, but what I will say is, because I was thinking about, you know, how have these women helped one another, and beyond the obvious of like Issa casting her in Insecure and Amanda doing a great job in Insecure, I thought she played her character extremely well. Tiffany was actually one of my favorite characters, funnily enough. But beyond that, I do think that their differing approaches to Hollywood help one another and just help Black people in Hollywood more broadly, because on the one hand, Issa is obviously empire building, and she is creating, you know, products with Black writers and Black producers. I think the director, producer, and head writer and stars of the film all were Black, right? So she is clearly creating opportunities for Black people in Hollywood. But if you look at Amanda, like launching her podcast, launching her radio show, doing like her sort of like comedy special, and throughout it all being extremely vocal and outspoken, I feel like that helps make a lane for more people who want to go about it their way. They don't want to do the corporate nice thing.
Yeah.
They want to go about it their own way. And I think she helps make that lane for other Black people. So in general, I think they're both kind of like expanding the pie for Black Hollywood. They're going about it in different ways, but I think they both are helped by that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's also something to learn from conflict in general, right? I mean, it's like you can now look back on this situation and think, okay, maybe I would have done it a little bit different this way or a little different that way, or maybe I shouldn't have gone on Shay Shay for 45 minutes and talked shit about my boss. You know, even though I loved listening to it.
I loved it. Yes, but right, that might be something you regret, but it also may have made Issa think twice about like, okay, if this happens in the future. And to her credit, I actually have not heard anything else since that time period about any conflicts on Issa's set, like or between her employees. So either it was a managerial issue that she fixed, or everyone was like, I'm not going to Amanda Seals myself. I want to be in the next project.
Yes. Or, like I'm sure there are people, see, this is what I'm saying, where people in that realm might be thinking like, okay, see, now look, she was the problem because she's gone from the equation and we've never seen a conflict before, So it's like, but I hate that vibe for her.
I hate that vibe too. I don't know. The vibe I get from Amanda, because I've watched a number of her interviews, is like you said, she is very assertive, very direct. She just doesn't pull any punches.
Like that.
A lot of people don't like that. She spoke about how, because in the thick of like the Israel Hamas war, she spoke up for Palestinian people. She said she lost like agents, she lost opportunities. She's very, very outspoken. And but she's apparently made her peace with that.
Hey, I mean, if you're going to be outspoken, like on that realm, in that capacity, you have to make your peace with it, or you'll be stressed every night after you say something.
Totally.
I don't know.
I mean, I think you and I can relate. Like, I feel like we've both been very honest about our opinions.
For sure. I can fully relate to Amanda. 100%, because I am that person who I'm like talking too much. I'm saying too much.
100%. And I feel like I can relate to Issa as well. Like, definitely relate to Amanda. There are some videos I've thought about deleting some of my TikToks. I haven't done it yet, but I have thought about it because like, as I look to build my tiny empire compared to Issa's, but my tiny little content creator empire, is this one going to come back and bite me in the ass?
I always think that. I'm like, should I just delete my whole account? I was getting nervous when the ban was happening because I'm like, should I privatize my whole entire account? Because I can't go back and take something down if I want to.
Right. Well, and I, now that we've got who we've got in office, I am thinking about some of the content that I have made about that man. Y'all might not see it. If you want to see it now, you might need to go watch it right now. Because
the thing is, how do we even go back and like you got to scroll back? They don't even let you go back by date or nothing.
No, you just have to scroll endlessly. The good news for me is all of my content is pretty much it's only 1 year period, and I only posted one video a day. So at most, I'm talking about like 365 videos. You posted 6 videos a day.
I post 5-6 videos a day. I've been on there for 3 years.
Oh yeah, that's a lot. Ooh, girl.
I might have to go like spend 3 days privatizing my account. And we only have 75 days to rectify this situation. I'm just like.
So if y'all want to see our Trump content, you got to go watch it now.
I'm about to start Googling my name with the word Trump in it to just see
That's exactly right. Like, see what comes up and delete it.
I'm nervous. I'm going to be on the run.
No, I'm nervous too. Like genuinely nervous. So, well, as it relates to these two, I'm hopeful. It doesn't seem like they'll ever be best friends.
I don't think so.
Hopefully they both learn something from
Maybe
that interaction. Maybe
they make it in the same party and then they make up.
Maybe they make up. And at the end of the day, I feel like Insecure was such a huge moment for both of them, and they both helped bring that moment about. So they clearly, they are queens.
Right?
Yeah, they share something, and they're queens helping queens.
Queens helping queens, even if they're fighting.
Exactly.
That's it for this week, everyone. Be sure to follow us on TikTok at 2 Queens 2 Crowns and check out the podcast on YouTube, 2 Queens 2 Crowns.
Erica and I would also love for you to follow us on our personal socials. I'm on TikTok at @Iam_KJ Miller and YouTube with the handle IamKJ Miller. And Erica's on IG at Let a Bee Know and TikTok at Let a Bitch Know. We'll see you next week.
Bye.